there are many farms in Minecraft, but today we will explore the biggest and greatest farms Minecraft has ever seen. These are big Minecraft engineering and will blow your mind. Starting off with a banger, which is a raid farm that produces a whopping 2.2 million items per hour. And roughly 1.2 million of those are emeralds. Those numbers sound so crazy to just say out loud. And of course, designing this ultimate raid farm probably wasn't easy. And there were many people involved, with the main designer being Fred. But taking a look at the raid farm, it has two sides. An overworld side and the nether side. In the overworld, it has the spawning platforms where the raids spawn. And a raid stacker along with the 35 villagers. But moving into the nether, and we can find these crazy looking TNT cannons. This view of the TNTs is so cool, but what's even cooler is when we take a close-up look of the portal. We can see that only the items travel through the portal. And that's because the TNT kills the raiders so fast that we can't even see them. Another unique part of this raid farm is that it consumes flint and steel. Since after every TNT explosion, the flint and steel has to turn on the portal again. And it uses exactly 281 flint and steel per hour, which means you need iron and flint to actually use this farm. If you happen to run out of flint and steel, or TNT, or any other required stuff, then this control panel here shows you this by lighting up and automatically shutting down the farm. So your farm won't destroy itself, which is a very good feature. There are even more clever things when speaking about this raid farm. For example, it is designed so it can be built in survival, and it is very lag friendly. You don't need to have a high-end computer or a high-end server to run it. The one bad thing is that this farm needs two people to run it, one being in the overworld and other being in the nether placing TNT. But if you use carpet mods, then you can just place bots doing these things for you. So in conclusion, this raid farm is a true engineering masterpiece. But what if you want to produce 1 million iron per hour? No problem at all, because this next huge farm does exactly that. It produces 1 million iron per hour. These crazy production rates are not gonna stop in this video. This iron farm is also two-dimensional. But this is the concept that almost every ultra fast farm uses. The overworld side has this simple board where it has 12 villagers and 1 pillager in a portal based iron farm. But it has been duplicated 580 times. That means this whole iron farm goes from Y level -60 up to Y level 319. And it has a total of 6,960 villagers and 580 pillagers. I can't even imagine how long it takes to collect almost 7,000 villagers. And then you also need to transport every single one of them into the right place. This iron farm is definitely way too huge. But moving to the nether, and we have quite an absurd view of iron golems dying. It is very laggy here, and I guess that's what you have to deal with if you want to get 1 million iron per hour. And of course it has a huge collection area as well, to safely collect all the iron this thing produces. This massive iron farm is designed by Nico is Lost, and I think he has done a great job with it. But personally, I wouldn't recommend building this in survival, just because of how many villagers and pillagers you need to transport. But if you happen to be crazy enough and build a perimeter, then get all of those villagers and pillagers and actually build it, then technically it is possible to make this farm in survival. The previous farm designer Nico is Lost definitely isn't lost, because he has made many powerful farms, and the next huge farm is also made by him. Let me introduce you to an extremely fast gold farm, producing over 90,000 gold ingots per hour, starting from the overworld. This time we have the killing chamber here. All the zombified piglins are falling down, and the player is hitting the armor stand with a looting tree sword, which of course gives the best result. And that's a satisfying view of all the zombified piglins falling down. But moving to the nether, this is where the real magic happens. Although it doesn't look like magic, because it looks like a simple gold farm with a lot of spawning platforms. but it has been built so low into the ground that it makes the spawning rates astronomical. And as everything is empty, no other mob can spawn here. But building this farm in survival would be complete pain, since you need to remove a lot of land and quite a lot of bedrock. So it's not really a survival friendly gold farm, but I do like the concept and the amount of gold this thing produces. And if you want to know the mechanics behind this gold farm and the iron farm, then check out Nico is Lost's videos. And if you decide that you want to build one of those huge farms together with your friends into a server, then you have to use our site wisehosting.com. We have powerful servers with many server packages and of course affordable pricing. We also got 24/7 support and a brand new game panel which makes your life so much more easier. Let's say you wanna install some mods, easy, just one click and it's done. But best of all, when checking out, use the code Shulker and get 25% discount from your first month on Wise Hosting. Check it out with the link in the description. Next up we have a mega laggy and overpowered shulker farm. This shulker farm is producing over 600,000 shulker shells per hour, which are all of course packed into shulker boxes. Here on the nether side we can see a shulker killing area, which looks just ridiculous. The amount of TNT that flies past is mind-blowing, and there is something so beautiful seeing them fly so accurately. And you definitely don't have any margin of error here. This shulker farm is designed by Guysim, and he has a very informative video on how he designed it. And this farm also has a control panel, where you can choose how fast you want to run the farm, the maximum being 600,000. But then it consumes 462,000 TNTs, which is a crazy amount. So you basically trade your gunpowder and sand to get shulker shells. But moving to the overworld, we can find a lot of portals where all the shulker spawning is going on. Building this farm in survival would take you a lot of time, and you also need a pretty beefy PC to just run it, and even then it still lags a ton. But the lag doesn't matter. What matters is that it works, and Guysim has done an amazing job. We ourselves have built a garden farm that produced 600,000 items per hour, and it took us over 50 hours to build. But there is one guy called Fortune8 Diamond who built a garden farm that produces over 700,000 items per hour. And the craziest part is that this farm doesn't need any ocean draining, so it's a lot easier to build. And this garden farm is built on top of the ocean temple, so it also doesn't need a lot of materials. And then in the sky there is an AFK spot and a killing area. This farm only produces 700,000 items when you use the looting tree sword. But looking into the nether, we can see how the garden movement is happening from one portal to another. And then next to it we have a huge collection area, since as you know, storing 700,000 items is quite challenging. And I would say this garden farm is definitely possible to build in any survival world. But the question is, do you really need that many items? Next up we have a farm that is producing 12.5 million items, and that's a bamboo farm designed by Toasted Sausage. The farm itself is actually pretty simple. In one module there are 3 dispensers dispensing bone meal, and then the pistons harvested, and the same thing is multiplied many times. Then there are hopper minecarts dividing all the bone meal, and water streams which move all the bamboo into the collection area. But this farm has 2 downsides. It is quite laggy when it's running, and it consumes a lot of bone meal. And by a lot I mean more bone meal than this farm produces bamboo. It consumes over 14 million bone meal per hour. That doesn't make it very practical or survival friendly. However, we ourselves have built a smaller version of that in our survival world. Our farm produces 2 million bamboo per hour, and we managed to run it with all the bone meal we have for just 4.5 minutes. But I still respect all the work that went into designing this farm, and it can produce an insane 12 million items per hour. The world's fastest farms won't stop, because the next farm is the world's fastest cobblestone farm, producing you 2 million items per hour. Thanks to these 4 genius designers, I can just flick a lever and this farm starts working. This marvelous looking farm has cobblestone generators all around the farm. then all the cobblestone gets pushed into the middle where TNT can destroy it and make it collectible. But I might have made a mistake by calling it a cobblestone farm, because when clicking this node block, I can switch it and it starts producing basalt, which is really awesome. It's a 2-in-1 farm, and now I can produce 2 million basalt per hour. And that's all thanks to very smart redstone designing. What actually surprised me even more is that this farm isn't very laggy. So maybe if you had the thought of building this farm in your survival world, then I would say it's a good choice. However, I don't know what are you going to do with the 2 million cobblestone this thing produces every hour. The next insanely fast farm is a creeper farm that produces 1.2 million gunpowder per hour, and it is designed by Frunacraft, who has done an amazing job. This creeper farm has been built as low as possible, and even some bedrock had to be broken. As we know, building it low gives you a boost in the farm production rates. Then here we have all the portals which lead all the creepers as fast as possible to the nether. And in the nether we have to use a looting tree sword if we want to reach the 1.2 million gunpowder rate. That also means that someone has to AFK in the overworld and someone has to be in the nether, so it is a 2-person farm. But watching the creepers fall down the portal is just so satisfying. About building this in survival, it's definitely possible. The hardest parts are probably the perimeter and breaking all the bedrock. But other than that, it's a pretty simple concept. Next up we have a one-dimensional wither skeleton farm designed by Dave Rooney. This farm produces a lot of different items, but the important one here are the wither skeleton skulls, which it produces over 2000 per hour. And it is impressive because everything is done in a single dimension. In the farm we have 3 spawning platforms, and then a lot of minecarts that are picking up the wither skeletons. And in the middle, the player can kill all the wither skeletons with a looting tree sword. This farm works really well, but building it is a bit hard, since to get the maximum rates you need to clear out a lot of the nether as he has done here. But this farm is still usable even if you don't clear out the nether like here, but then expect the rates to be about half as fast. And the other hard thing you need to do is find the nether fortress that has 3 crossroads in a row, unless you use some mods that can help you find the fortress like this. But overall, I really like this farm, and if you want to know more about it, then make sure to check out Dave Rooney's video. Don't forget to check out wisehosting.com to get the best Minecraft server, and thanks for watching, see ya!